Joining me right now in the kitchen is Chef Tommy Garnick, pizza champion, award-winning restaurateur. And Tommy, I tell you what, I heard you touch on something the other day, digestibility. Now, I know you have made a pilgrimage to Italy and really studied what's going on. And you were telling me this morning that digestibility really comes about because we're using the science that yeast and flour all afford us. And sometimes today that's being shortcut, when they do everything mass produce. Tell us about that digestibility factor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of these things. It's very prominent in European baking, and what they're looking at there is they're looking at one of the ingredients that seems to be most forgotten in a lot of mass production. Time is now. Time is money. We got to go, 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 go. Is time, right? So you can pull up a recipe for a bakery, and the one that it's in there, but it's hidden in the hidden in the steps that and a lot of people kind of shortcut that is the time that happens. When we look at what bread is these advanced networks of carbohydrates and proteins, and those are going to have to be digested in some way, shape, or form. So when we give bread time, and when a pizza maker or a bread maker or a baker gets together, what they're really trying to do is maximize the flavor potential that you're going to get out of that grain. But just as importantly is you're trying to make it as good of a quality product as you can. So when we're looking at what happens there is we have these very long, complex proteins. We have these very long, complex carbohydrate strands. So what happens here is we have the fermentation cycle. There's enzymatic activity that breaks down those protein strands. We have the yeast that comes underneath those carbohydrates. So what you see is it's something that's much easier to digest. There's a lot of people that'll travel other places in the world. They'll travel through Europe and like, I ate all the bread in the world in France, and then I came home to the United States, and now my stomach hurts. So a lot of what happens there, and if you see these pizzaioli, this is how they compete. They're like, my pizza's more digestible than his. Right? And so what that's saying is we've allowed science to enough time to allow the dough to properly ferment, right? So there's really two stages when I'm making bread. There's fermentation and there's proofing. And they're correlated, but they're not causal of each other. So I can still get a fully proofed loaf of bread without being properly fermented, and I can get a properly fermented loaf of bread without getting much proofing. So what my goal is to bring those both together. And through that fermentation cycle is what's really going to start kind of breaking down those complex chains, and it makes it much easier on you when your body goes in. It's a much easier process on what's happening there. So it makes it a much more pleasurable experience. And again, the key there that we're looking at is time and using a good grain that's going to be able to allow that to happen.
So I guess the real key phrase here is sometimes a shortcut is not a good thing.
And sometimes a shortcut is not a shortcut because we have to make up for it somewhere, right? And that this beautiful craft of baking bread is thousands of years old, and there's something that they had that we thought we could bypass, and now we're taking a look at it, and maybe there was something that maybe there was some tribal knowledge that they have that now the baker today is having to relearn the lessons of the past.
Well, Tommy, this is really significant. I appreciate you being on again.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take it easy.